25.2. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Sakyans, where there was a town of the Sakyans named Nagaraka. Then the Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One. Having approached, he paid homage to the Blessed One, sat down to one side and said to him, Venerable Sir, this is half of the holy life, that is, good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. And the Buddha said, not so, Ananda, not so, Ananda. This is the entire holy life, Ananda, that is, good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. When a monk has a good friend, a good companion, a good comrade, it is to be expected that he will develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying, good friendship, good comradeship is the whole of the holy life. That means you want to practice the holy life. This having a good friend, a good comrade is extremely important. This word in Pali, I think, is Kalyana Mitta. In Chinese, is translated as good knowing advisor, San Zhi. And the Venerable Ananda thought is 50% of the holy life has to do with a good comrade, but the Buddha says it's 100%. So in our case, the best Kalyana Mitta we can have is the Buddha. Buddha's words is left for us, so that is the best Kalyana Mitta we can have. The only problem is sometimes when you study the Buddha's words, there are certain things you may not understand. So if you can find another companion who can guide you in explaining the Buddha's teachings and all that, then you are very lucky. Many of us, when we start off, we can't find somebody who can actually explain to us the Buddha's words. And how, Ananda, does a monk who has a good friend, a good companion, a good comrade, develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path? Here, Ananda, the monk develops right view, which is based upon seclusion, dispassion and cessation, maturing in release. Similarly, he develops right thoughts, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right recollection, right concentration, which is based upon seclusion, dispassion and cessation, maturing in release. It is in this way, Ananda, that a monk who has a good friend, a good companion, a good comrade, develops and cultivates the Noble Eightfold Path. By the following method too, Ananda, it may be understood how the entire holy life is good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. By relying upon me as a good friend, Ananda, being subject to birth are freed from birth, being subject to aging are freed from aging, being subject to death are freed from death, being subject to sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair are freed from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. By this method, Ananda, it may be understood how the entire holy life is good friendship, good companionship, good comradeship. It's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha says that relying upon the Buddha, we rely upon the Buddha. So in other words, the Buddha is our best Kalyana Mitta. So we have to investigate the Buddha's words more. Later you find, when you come to the chapter on the 7 Bojjhangas, there is a factor called investigation of Dhamma.
The Buddha said, monks, these 3 persons are very helpful to another person. What 3? The one through whom a person goes for refuge to the Buddha, to the Dhamma and to the Sangha. Then there is the one through whom one understands, as it really is, the meaning of this is dukkha. This is the arising of dukkha. This is the ceasing of the dukkha. This is the practice that leads to the ceasing of dukkha. That means the 4 Aryan truths. Also, there is the one through whom a person, by destroying the asavas, himself in this very life comes to know thoroughly the liberation by mind, the liberation by wisdom, which is freed of the asavas, and having attained it, abides therein. Such a person is very helpful to one. These are the 3 persons. Then these 3, I declare there is no other more helpful to this person. To these 3 persons I declare, one cannot make requital by salutations, by rising up in his presence, by saluting him with clasped hands, by dutiful behavior, or by offerings of the requisites of food, clothing, bed and lodging, medicines and extra delicacies. So that's the end of the sutta. Here this sutta is saying that these three persons help us the most. You cannot find any other person more helpful to you than these three persons. The first one who brings you to take refuge to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. In other words, the person who introduces you to the teachings of the Buddha. That's the first person. We owe a great debt to. Then the second one is the one who makes us understand, who helps us to understand the four Aryan truths. When we understand the basics of the four Aryan truths, we have entered the stream and we will never fall into the woeful pains again. That's why we owe a great debt to this second person. The third one is the person who helps us to attain arahanthood, to attain destruction of the asavas. What is this asavas? Asavas can be translated as uncontrolled mental outflows. That means the running of the mind. Because when the mind runs, that means there is consciousness through the six sense doors. And whereas the consciousness through the six sense doors creates the arising of the world. The world, the Buddha said, arises in consciousness. Without consciousness, there is no world. That's why the Buddha said that the world is like a dream. It's insubstantial. It's hollow. Sunyata, emptiness. But because there are so many things to enjoy in the world, so many things to play in the world, we can't let go of this dream. We want to dream again and again until we have suffered enough, we have been pained enough. Then slowly we mature, lifetime after lifetime. We come and we get hurt, and then we mature spiritually, we develop, and the time will come when you'll all go along the spiritual path, renounce, and be ready to get out of this dream. So you have to remember, the Buddha said, these three persons, you cannot make, you cannot pay back the debt to them, even if you pay due respect to them, you offer them all the requisites, etc.
Once, when the Venerable Majjhima was his attendant, the Exalted One stayed at Chalika on the hill there. Now they approached the Exalted One, saluted him and stood at one side. So standing, he said to the Exalted One, Lord, I would like to visit Jantugama for alms. Do now as you think timely. So the Venerable Majjhima, dressing himself before noon, taking bowl and robe, and Gama for alms. And when he had wandered about for alms, and returned therefrom, and finished his meal, he came to the bank of the Kimikala river. Now while stretching his legs and to and fro along the river bank, the Venerable Majjhima saw a mango grove, pleasing and beautiful, and at the sight he thought, truly this mango grove is pleasing and beautiful. Proper indeed is it to strive here, for a clansman wanting to strive. If the Exalted One would permit me, I will come and strive in this mango grove. And the Venerable Majjhima returned to the Exalted One, saluted him and sat down at one side, and told him all that had taken place, and if the Exalted One permits me, I will go to that mango grove and strive. And the Buddha said, Stay a while, Majjhima, till some other monk appear, for we are alone. A second time the Venerable Majjhima spoke, saying, Lord, for the Exalted One there is nothing further to be done. There is no adding to his accomplishments. But for me, Lord, there is more to be done. To what is done there is more to be added. If the Exalted One permit me, I will go to that mango grove and strive. Stay a while, Maggia, till some other monk appear, for we are alone. A third time the Venerable Maggia spoke, saying, Lord, for the Exalted One there is nothing further to be done. There is no adding to his accomplishments. But for me, Lord, there is more to be done. To what is done there is more to be added. If the Exalted One permit me, I will go to the mango grove and strive. And the Buddha said, What can we say to you, Maggia, when you repeat, I would strive? Do now, Maggia, as you think fit. Then the Venerable Maggia rose from sitting, saluted the Exalted One, and keeping him on his right, went to the mango grove. And having come, he entered the grove and sat down at the foot of a tree to spend the noonday rest. And there in that mango grove, 3 wicked evil thoughts kept coming to the Venerable Maggia, that is to say, sensual thoughts, malign thoughts or thoughts of ill will, and cruel thoughts. And the Venerable Maggia wondered thus, It is amazing and astonishing, sir. By faith alone have I gone forth from home to this homeless state. Yet I am still dogged by these 3 wicked evil thoughts, sensual thoughts, malign thoughts, cruel thoughts. So the Venerable Maggia returned to the Exalted One and said to him, Lord, while I stayed in that mango grove, 3 wicked evil thoughts kept coming to me, sensual thoughts, malign thoughts, and cruel thoughts. And I thought, how amazing and astonishing it was that I had gone forth from the home to the homeless life by faith alone. For Lord, I am still dogged by these 3 wicked evil thoughts, sensual thoughts, malign thoughts, cruel thoughts. And the Buddha said, For the emancipation of the mind of the unripe or unmatured, 5 conditions, Maggia, are conducive to their ripening or maturing. What 5? Herein, Maggia, a monk has a good friend, a good companion, Kalyana Mitta, a good comrade. For the emancipation of the mind of the unripe, this is the first condition conducive to the ripening. Again, a monk is virtuous and dwells restrained by the restraint of the Patimokkha. He is perfect in behavior and resort, seeing danger in the smallest fault. Undertaking the training, he trains himself accordingly. This is the second condition. Then that talk which is serious and a help to the mind's release, that is, talk on wanting little, on contentment, on seclusion, on aloofness, on strenuous endeavor, on virtue, on concentration, on wisdom, on emancipation, on the knowledge and vision of emancipation. A monk obtains at will, easily and without difficulty. This is the third condition. Then a monk dwells strenuous in purpose, putting away unrighteous conditions, taking to righteousness or wholesomeness, persevering and energetic. He shirks not the burden of righteousness or wholesomeness. This is the fourth condition. Moreover, a monk has wisdom. He is endowed therewith as to the way of growth and decay, with Aryan penetration concerning the way to the utter destruction of dukkha. This is the fifth condition conducive to the ripening. Then the Buddha continued, These 4 conditions, Maggia, virtue, beneficial talk, strenuous endeavor, and wisdom, may be expected of a monk who has a good friend, a good companion, a good comrade. Then, Maggia, when that monk is established in those 5 conditions, 4 more must be made to become by him: reflection on unattractiveness, to put away passion; on metta or goodwill, to put away ill will; mindfulness in inhaling and exhaling, to cut off distraction; and the thought of impermanence, to uproot the conceit I am; For a monk Magya who thinks on impermanence, the thought of not self endures. Thinking on there being no self, he wins to the state wherein the conceit I am has been uprooted to the cool even in this life. That's the end of the sutta. So this is quite an interesting sutta. We find that this monk, he wanted to go off. He was supposed to be the attendant of the Buddha. That's why he was staying there alone with the Buddha, and he wanted to take off and go and practice meditation in the mango grove. But the Buddha advised him not to go, saying that they were alone. But he insisted on going, and after pleading with the Buddha 3 times, the Buddha allowed him to go. And as the Buddha expected, he went there and he couldn't meditate. He was disturbed by sensual thoughts, thoughts of ill will or anger, and cruel thoughts. And because he couldn't meditate with all these thoughts in his mind, he came back to the Buddha. And generally, it is not advisable for a new monk to go and stay alone. You can see from here why. And in the Vinaya, the Buddha instructed that new monks should stay at least 5 years with their preceptor or teacher, who teaches them the Dhamma, the Vinaya, how to serve the senior monk, practicing obedience, humility, etc. And all these is part of the training. There's a lot of things a new monk can learn from a senior monk. And when he has all the foundation laid, then only it is good for a monk to go off and live alone. Very few monks can go off and live alone from the start. And the Buddha gave him this advice that 5 things are necessary for an unripe mind to ripen. The first one, he should have a good friend, a kalyana mitta. This good friend, kalyana mitta, represents a senior monk. A senior monk, a teacher, is called a good friend in the Dhamma, in the suttas. A good friend who can guide a new monk along the spiritual path. The second quality, he should practice the precepts, be restrained by the patimokkha. The patimokkha are the 227 precepts of a monk, and other Vinaya rules also. And the third thing, beneficial talk. Beneficial talk in the suttas refers to talk about having few ones, being contented, on seclusion, on aloofness. The difference between seclusion and aloofness: seclusion means staying in a place which is secluded from lay people generally, for example in the forest or in a forest monastery. Whereas aloofness is even staying in a monastery, you try to be aloof from other people, not to talk with other persons unless it is necessary. There's a difference. Then strenuous endeavor, making effort to strive. And then virtue, concentration, wisdom, emancipation or liberation, and knowledge and vision of liberation. These are the things that are beneficial, considered beneficial talk. Number 4 is a monk should dwell strenuous in purpose. That means he strives hard to get rid of unwholesome states and to cultivate wholesome states of mind. That's why a person on the spiritual path, he should be looking into the mind more than outside the mind. When we look into the mind, that is the source of all our problems, the ego, the mental suffering is all in the mind. And then the 5th one, the 5th quality that is necessary for ripening of the unripe mind is wisdom. And wisdom generally, we have to listen to the Buddha's words for a start, and then after that we meditate, then we get the wisdom. Then after that the Buddha said, to obtain the last 4 conditions, virtue, beneficial talk, strenuous endeavor and wisdom, these four things may be expected of a monk who has a good friend, a good companion, a kalyana mitta. That means if a new monk dwells with a kalyana mitta, a senior monk, a good teacher, then that teacher monk will teach him to acquire these other four qualities: virtue, beneficial talk, or give him beneficial talk, and then strenuous endeavor and wisdom. And the Buddha said, four other things must be cultivated by a monk. Reflection, contemplation of the unattractiveness, that is the asubha, the unattractiveness of the body, to put away passion. Unattractiveness of the body refers to the cultivation of the 32 parts of the body. And then the second one, metta, to practice metta, to put away anger or ill will. Metta is loving kindness or goodwill towards others. And the third one is anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, to cut off distraction. This is to stop our thinking, because every day we are filled with a lot of thoughts, and every time we have thoughts, the ego manifests. And the Buddha encourages us not to think. So we practice anapanasati to cut off the thinking. And the last contemplation is the contemplation of impermanence, to uproot the conceit I am. This one is very important, especially the contemplation of the different types of corpses. We contemplate that one day this body will die, and then after about 3 days it will become a corpse which is bloated, blue-black, smelly, and the liquids start coming out from the openings. Suppose we have 9 openings in the body, and all this smelly liquid will start oozing out. And then later, after the body swells up, it will burst, it will open up, and then it will be eaten by all the worms and all the maggots. If we contemplate a dead dog on the roadside, how in different stages of decay, one day our body will also be like that. And then we keep on contemplating like this to uproot the conceit that I am, that I exist. So these are all very practical advice by the Buddha. The first one, to recapitulate, 5 conditions are important for the maturing of a monk. The first one, he has to dwell with a good friend, a good companion. It's mentioned in some other sutta. If we dwell with a teacher, then we learn to respect and to love that teacher, to be obedient to that teacher. And the second condition is virtue. The third one is beneficial talk. If you dwell with a good monk, you can obtain beneficial talk. Number 4 is you have to strive. Number 5, have wisdom. These are the 5 factors. And then after that, 4 other contemplations are very useful. The contemplation of unattractiveness of the body, to put away passion. The contemplation of metta, practice of metta, or goodwill or loving kindness, to put away anger or ill will. Then anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing, to cut off distraction, impermanence, to uproot the conceit I am.